Well, greetings and welcome to another episode of Lightbulb Moments. This will be our 92nd episode today. Remember, money isn't the most important thing in life, but it is like oxygen on the gotta have it scale. Hi, I'm Tom Kuhn, CEO of Qnity, and we are here to help you make what's overwhelming, confusing, and complicated into a simpler path towards prosperity, whatever that means to you. Using a simple, visual, and actionable approach. And ultimately, our mission is to create a greater financial wellness for pro beauty, whether it's for students, employees, leaders, etc. So call to action, compensation study. We are in data submission right now. This is an industry-wide collaboration, and I'm asking for your participation and help. There's no charge, and in fact, you get a report to be part of this. But really, it's answering an essential question: what does a career in cosmetology look like from a wage and hours standpoint? So what is out there for people aspiring to join the industry and public perception is paltry type earnings. And much of this is reported based upon points of data references that either are way incomplete, biased, etc. And it's incumbent on us to do something about that, to get some data. This study, we're on phase 2 of the study. We urge all of you to be part of this. As Myra from PBA had said, this is the most accurate study she's ever seen in her entire time at PBA. So a lot of labor has gone into making this thing confidential, tight, relevant, and all of that. So we need you. Please use this QR code. What it will do is it'll take you to the website. And at that point, all you really need to do is just enter contact information. Once you do that, it'll trigger an agreement that will protect you for confidentiality. Then we build a data submission sheet for you. It's actually a quick and simple process, but the sooner you can do this, the better. And what you will also get out of it is a robust report with the first data, at least I've ever seen in my 30 years in the beauty industry, with all sorts of information that will help you not only attract more people in the industry, but will help you right now in your business with data information, plus education, et cetera, on how to use this data. So anyway, we need you to participate in this, all of you, please. If you're an employee-based salon and have W-2 employees, you're eligible for this, 20 locations or less. Also, a couple other things that's coming on, going on here. Money SBO, led by Candace Gliato. This is a workshop on the finance function for owners and managers. A key word there is if you have managers that you want to become more competent in the finance function of the business, or maybe you are a manager, or maybe you know someone, don't miss this, because it takes the finance function of a small business, salon and spa, and makes financial management simple, visual, and actionable. I also want to mention that 2 to 10 registration is open. You do need to be eligible to attend. We sent an email out on that. It's going to be in St. Petersburg, Florida. This is an invite-only exclusive conference. It's only open to 50 companies and 150 participants. It is appropriate for all members of the leadership team. I know we have several 2 to 10 members in this. If you're not part of 2 to 10 and you want to confirm whether you have an invite or not, you can reach out to Michelle from our team. Also, I am passing the torch in terms of being the overall leader of 2 to 10. Obviously, I am here to provide guidance and very involved. But Heath Smith from Ruiz Salons, who is a 2 to 10 member, is going to be chair for the next 2 years. And Michelle Schuster, our COO, is working very actively with Heath. So both of them are really doing a great job. They're working on it, it seems like nonstop, getting ready for a great conference in October here. Also, as it relates to the data, so this 2 to 10 was actually the first conference ever that was grounded in data. I mean, it was really started as a data collaboration. And so data has always been the heart of 2 to 10. What's happening this year is the compensation study will be the data for 2 to 10. And there will be a carve out. So for those people that are going to 2 to 10, we're going to carve out part of the study into that group and do sort of a study within the study. If you are not coming to 2 to 10, you still can and should participate in the compensation study. Those of you that come to 2 to 10 get something just a little bit extra. Also, Money Pro, this is our new financial wellness benefit that we have for employers, help employees and employees to really help create a more financially confident and more financial literate future, which is the benefit for everybody. And then, of course, we have our program for schools, which we're super excited about. All right, remember to prosper, manage your ATM, your attention, time, and money. It's not lost on us today. You're spending your precious time with us today. So thank you very much. If you're listening to this recording by YouTube, thanks for joining us. We hope you get something out of it. Our last guest was Diane Stevens. Diane is such a amazing person. There's so many different ways that she contributes, and there's so many different things that make her just such a valued part of our community. We actually invited her to be part of the compensation study think tank because she is steps away from Capitol Hill and DC, and that's a good thing. Diane was a great guest. Listen to the YouTube recording if you like. This week, our guest spotlight is going to be Debbie Marr of So Chic. So Chic really is the brand for which Bob Steele and W. Daly salons live under. Debbie has just some really a great information, and just I'm really looking forward to the conversation today. Past recordings are on YouTube. Also, we do welcome members of the school community as well as salons and spas. And for my light bulb moment this week, it actually came up. Well, I've had a lot of light bulb moments this week or since we spoke last, but I guess the one I'm going to talk about is really came out of the conversation I had with Debbie when we were prepping for today. And it really has to do with restaurants. Now, usually when I've talked about restaurants, I've talked about menu anxiety. I've got menu anxiety. If I see a menu like this, like cheesecake, I just shut down. I can't, I'm just way overwhelmed. And but that's really not what we're going to talk about with restaurants today. What we're going to talk about is some light bulb moments that really occurred when Debbie and I were chatting in prep about certain parallels between the restaurant industry and the salon industry. Also, I think Debbie's got some great lessons as we'll call it the new kid on the block and her company, where she came in at a senior level with a mature leadership team. So some insights there, as well as work-life integration. We use the word work-life balance on the email, and my good friend Kevin Cameron from Pivot Point said, maybe it's more work-life integration. I like integration better, actually. So it's a great word choice and great word correction. Thank you, Kevin. So anyway, we will be welcoming Debbie into the Brain Trust today. And so without any further ado, Debbie, why don't you come on camera here, come off mute, and let's invite you into the conversation. There she comes.
It is not letting me stop or start my video.
Okay.
It is saying the host has stopped it.
The host has stopped it. So maybe someone behind the scenes can help you. And let's try something here. I think we can send you a little nudge to start your video. All right, did we make her co-host? I don't know the answer to that, but someone's going to figure this out for us. Debbie, okay?
Sounds great.
All right, so you wait for go to 3 dots. So we're getting all sorts of instructions over here. Okay, make co-host. All right, I'll make you a co-host. How about that? Let's see if that works now, Debbie. See if you can turn your video on now. There we go. All right. How are you today?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing great. So we were on with a group, which we refer to as an inner circle of clients that we work with that get together once a season. And it's sort of a mastermind group. And it occurred to me that you were the only one that hadn't been a guest yet. So we figured, why not now, right?
No time better than the present, right?
So you and I met many years ago, and we will deal with the most recent period here. And you serve as the director of operations for the So Chic brand. Is that correct?
Correct.
And let's kind of set the stage here for a little bit what this looks like for you. So you live in Birmingham, Alabama, right?
I do, yes.
And Bob Steele is in Atlanta, Georgia.
It is.
So how do you become director of operations if you are what, 2 hours and 15 minutes away?
Yes, so it definitely takes some planning and coordination. I like the work-life integration that you mentioned earlier. You know, the word that I typically use is work-life blending, because I think it's important to, number one, acknowledge that it's never really truly going to be balanced. And number two, to find opportunities to blend in when you're able to really make sure that you're spending the time and your attention where it matters.
So director of operations requires a lot of face time.
Yes.
And so how do you manage this? I mean, give us an idea what a typical week looks like for you, first of all.
So my typical work week, I work from home on Mondays and Fridays. Those are my admin days where I am, doing the non-face-to-face aspects of my job. And then Tuesday through Thursday, I'm in Atlanta.
So you commute every week?
I do. Yes, every week.
And so what is it? Tuesday through Thursday? Would you drive early on Tuesday, come home late on Thursday, and that's your gig then, huh?
It is, yes.
And how does this work? I mean, so many are working. I mean, it's we all know everybody's working virtually today, but commuting like this is, I don't have many guests on here that have that type of commute commitment. That works well for you and your family?
It does. It was actually really convenient because I was able to take on a pattern that I was already used to in my previous job. I traveled for the restaurant brand that I was working for. I was a franchise business consultant and had a territory between North Carolina and Florida. So I was used to traveling weekly on Tuesdays. So it really is a matter of logistics. Sometimes it can feel like planning a lunar space launch. But it takes really good babysitters and a very supportive spouse and just commitment from everybody that this is what we're doing and everybody understands the why behind it, and it works for us.
When we started our conversation, I was expecting that we would direct our conversation in a very different way, which we're going to get to some things that I anticipated when I talked to, but my light bulb moment yesterday was really about your restaurant experience. And because that's still very fresh in your mind here, and you worked at a restaurant chain for what it was, 7 years, was it?
Yes.
It's just, there's some interesting parallels in this that I think provide some good lessons for all of us today. So let's kind of go through what you did. I mean, so you were area director, 6 locations, working directly with franchisees, right?
Yes. Yes.
And then you moved into the corporate side, and that's where you had North Carolina and Florida, and you essentially traveled to the different franchisee locations. And what did you do when you went there?
So I was the liaison between corporate and the franchise owners. So my job was to coach, guide, and support them in their journey with their businesses. I was also responsible for safety and sanitation, their regular corporate inspections, just ensuring they're running the business to our standards, and also guiding them in all the areas that they were challenged by, with sales, with hiring and recruitment, with retention, a lot of the things that we face in the beauty industry.
So these were independently owned franchise businesses that were, okay. So you then wouldn't have P&L responsibility because that would have been the P&Ls of the private third party, which is a franchisee, correct?
Correct. When I started as an area director, I had the P&L responsibility working for a franchise owner, and then I transitioned to work for corporate. And at that point, no P&L responsibility, but I had franchise owners that their growth and their success was really my responsibility at that point.
So at Qnity, we look at a lens of a business under we refer to as 5 functions. And so which of these functions did you provide guidance on? Marketing, yes or no?
Yes.
Operations?
Yes.
Human capital?
Yes.
Education?
Yes.
Finance?
Yep.
Okay. So a pretty good parallel to then moving in to be a director of operations for how many locations does So Chic have?
We have 7.
You have 7. Okay.
Mhm.
So it seems like great qualifications for someone in your role, you know. And I asked you a question yesterday, and that is, why'd you make the move? Why did you move from the restaurant industry to the salon industry?
Well, I do have previous salon industry experience. So I did manage multi locations prior to my 7 years at this brand that I was working for. And the reality is, working in the restaurant industry right now is very challenging. And finding similar opportunities in the hiring and retention arena that we are seeing in the beauty industry, but it's so much more than that, because for restaurant managers, it is a daily struggle to see who's going to show up for work, how many holes are they personally going to have to fill themselves, what is the day going to look like, how are they going to get through their shifts. And from my standpoint, from where I was trying to coach and develop these businesses, you really get to a point where your hands are tied, because you go in with a plan to talk about a sales strategy or a detailed cleaning strategy to get their facility up to par. And they're just trying to survive the day. So it really puts you in a unique situation where they understand that all of these things are important, the growth and the cleanliness and all of that, but they also understand they're doing everything they can just to service their guests.
I started to get the impression, it started to become very clear with me yesterday that I'm used to hearing about a lot of pain points in the beauty industry, and am very empathetic, compassionate with all the complexity that goes into being a salon owner, salon, spa, school owner or manager. And then after listening to you yesterday, it's like, I want to choose my words carefully here, but it's almost like you haven't seen anything, you know, because what you're saying is the restaurant industry is quantumly more damaged and quantumly more complicated and full of some very serious aggravation's the wrong word. I mean, but you know, it doesn't sound pretty.
It's not, and you're losing managers in droves, which is the real challenge. At first it started with the hourly employees. There were no hourly employees. We all experienced that. And then when there's no hourly employees, it falls to the managers. So now you have managers who are used to having somebody work every position in their restaurant for a shift. Now they might have half the people there that they need. They still have to operate. They still have to figure it out.
Yeah, yeah. You know, at 2 to 10, I think it was many years ago, we always invited other industries to be part of 2 to 10. Like, we had a dental clinic, we had a hotel, we had all these different industries. We had a vet clinic, and but I found the restaurant guest we had was fascinating. Pointed out some things that are quite obvious, but you don't think of, so if you have a snow day or if you have a closed day, in the beauty industry, that just means the appointment gets pushed out. In the restaurant industry, it doesn't get pushed out. That is permanently lost revenue.
Exactly.
And secondly, you have perishable goods. So from a management of, there's the amount of complexity. I mean, I've always sort of appreciated what goes into running a successful restaurant. And what you said is yesterday, says no one wants to work food now. So
That's true.
why does no one want to work food now?
There are not enough people in food. There have to be enough people in order for the operations to work well. So there is a struggle either in your hourly employees or in your management, one of the two, where you don't have enough people. And now there are pockets where you have some really great, strong cultures and they're well staffed and they don't experience the challenges, but those are significantly in the minority. I think anybody listening to this call can think back in the past 90 days if they've had a bad experience at a restaurant. I'm sure most people will be like, yeah, I waited a while for my food this one day a couple of weeks ago. That's more the norm now, whereas that's not what we were accustomed to even 2.5 years ago. 2.5 years ago, the demand was, we want it now, and this is what we expect. And the expectation was that would happen from the customer standpoint. Now, from the customer standpoint, they're expected to be patient and have grace because we may or may not be able to provide you what you're expecting compared to what
Yeah.
you're used to.
You made the comment there's actually a bigger labor pool in beauty right now than restaurants, in spite of the fact in beauty, they need to be licensed professionals. I mean, is that true?
I believe that's true.
Yeah.
I think that, finding service providers, of course, is challenging. Recruiting is challenging. But that service provider who's licensed, and if they're wanting to work in beauty, they only have so many options. They're going to find a salon to work in. Whereas the restaurant industry, I joke with people often and say the restaurant industry is where people go who don't know how to do anything else.
Mm.
But they become kind of a jack of all trades. If they're working in the restaurant industry, they can go to another industry. They can go check out hotels. They can go check out, any other industry that will take, entry level people. And they're wanting to do it because the days in the restaurants are very hard right now. For the ones that are employed and are showing up to work, they're almost punished because they're having to do the work of 2 and 3 people because everyone's not there.
We later on we'll get to this, but we had a conversation about compensation in restaurants and overtime.
Mhm.
We'll get to that in a moment. But so it's the call outs, the supply chain issues, customers that aren't sympathetic to employee challenges, and I think you used the word that grace is short-lived with restaurant clientele. So you're losing managers left and right now. So fast forward over into your position right now. You were super excited last week because you mentioned that you had all locations were now staffed with a manager, which was a challenge. So tell us about that.
It's a glorious feeling to now have a manager in each location. We had 2 opportunities pop up in the past few months, and hiring is not easy right now. As we all know, finding good salon managers is a challenge. We were very fortunate to be able to promote from within for the 2 locations that we needed managers, but we did have to get creative. In one location, we had someone that has the potential, but wasn't really proved out, doesn't really have the work history to be able to say for certain. So getting creative is, instead of hiring a manager, we brought her in as an assistant manager, and we're training her in that aspect, and have the brand general manager that's helping oversee that location while she goes through training to make sure that it's going to be a good fit.
How important is the salon manager to the success of your company on a 1 to 10 basis?
Oh, a 10.
Okay. All right. So what happened? So you filled these 2 positions with existing team. You promoted from within. What's next? Do you have a bench? So
What's next is developing one. So
Okay.
now we're at the point of looking at our development for our front desk teams, our management teams, and making sure that we're growing them, and thinking outside the box is looking at ways to grow our front desk. How can we give them more responsibility so we can start to identify those opportunities that we have for future promoting from within?
Not only a bench, but also a floater, right?
Yes, a floater would be great, wouldn't it?
So my experience with multi-location, when you start getting up to that number of locations, then the importance of a bench and a floater are even vitally more important, because the odds are such that someone's going to be out.
Yes.
Someone's going to be on vacation at education. So someone's going to be out, and either that location is without a manager, or you fill in or something, or you've got, someone on deck. And then also with 7 locations, turnover is reality in all businesses. So you quickly could be down to 6 before you know it, so that's part of your next focus, is developing a bench, huh?
Yes, developing a bench. And, as far as coverage goes, we are fortunate to have brand general managers for both brands. So we have somebody that can step in and cover should a manager be out for any reason. So we're fortunate to have the infrastructure to support that. But definitely building a bench. People right now is the number one thing to focus on. In whatever aspect you want to pick. I mean, just pick one, and you're going to be doing yourself a favor.
So let's go back to the restaurant industry for a moment. I've always seen the restaurant industry as one of the closest parallels to salons and spas from a recruitment standpoint, more for support staff, whether it's managers, whether it's desk. Would you agree that is a pretty good place to recruit from?
I definitely agree. I myself was, working in a restaurant, and how I started my first job in the beauty industry was being a client for several years of a salon. That salon owner grew to another location and was needing a manager. And I thought, it's fun here. Everybody's happy. I'm always happy when I'm here. How hard can it be to run, right? So I learned quickly.
So maybe you've got some tips here today, whether it's an owner of a school or a salon. Maybe it's a leader, whether they're leading one of the functions or they're the lead, location manager, or whatever. What tips would you have to tap into that industry to look for candidates for some of those positions?
So you have a variety of options, and they range from getting involved with your local chamber of commerce. Restaurants are heavily involved with their local chambers. That is one avenue that they use to drive revenue, to get involved with the community, to find out, opportunities where they can get involved, where they can do community outreach. So the chambers of commerce always know who the most active and engaged players in the restaurant brands in their area are. That's definitely a place to start if you're looking for great people. And you can even take it to a whole other level and cold call restaurants, just like restaurant recruiters do. It's actually something that I did when we were looking for managers here in Atlanta. Restaurant recruiters do their job by simply picking up the phone and calling the restaurant around 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning, if it's a lunch and dinner spot, because you've got your manager in there prepping for the day. And they ask one question: are you happy?
I've got some mixed feelings about that one, to be honest with you, about actually calling the restaurant during working hours. But you know what? In the world of human capital, maybe I'm dating myself, I guess.
Hey, that's how the restaurant recruiters do their job.
Well, great insight. Now, we're going to come back to restaurants in a little bit here, okay? But unless you have any other tips for those that want to look to the restaurant industry to find talent, any other tips?
Just frequenting your favorite restaurants. If you go to a regular spot and you have great service and the facility's in good condition and you always have a great experience, you should be interested in the leadership there.
Yeah, I certainly becoming a regular customer of a restaurant and having the same person, whether they're, serve as a host, whether they serve as a server, whatever the role is. I know when I was a multi-location leader, that is something I actively did, is I would, go to a few restaurants and I said, oh, and did some recruiting around that. It was very successful.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's get on.
Sorry.
No,
I was just
please
going
go.
to say, another thing that I would coach my franchisees on is they would generate these business cards, not their actual business card, but just a card that says something along the lines of, I like your style. So that they would have these cards for those exact reasons: being in a restaurant, having a great experience. If you love your server, love the manager that came and checked in on you, hand them that card and say, hey, if you're ever looking for a new opportunity, let me know.
I love it. That's great. By the way, I'm interested in any comments in the chat. If any of you have been strategic in your looking for talent with restaurants, I'm looking for someone in the chat there if someone has experience. All right, let's change directions here a little bit, and I'm going to ask you a question I asked you last week when we were on more of a group call. So you joined the team March 1st, right? Mm-hmm. And you came in at a level director of operations, which essentially mean that in using this term, you leapfrogged other people that were already in a senior leadership role. Was that hard to really come in above members of the team that have been there for a decade or more?
I don't know if I would use hard as the word, but it can definitely be challenging. It's something that you have to strategize. Yeah. Especially having really tenured employees in those positions that are now my direct reports. It's a dance. You have to know when to lead and you have to know when to be led. And you really have to build that relationship first and foremost, regardless of how anxious you are to get in there and get your hands dirty. You have to be patient.
I think it's a really relevant topic because whether, someone out there tuning in today is looking to go outside to find, a leader and may have concerns about, bringing someone in from the outside, that could be very real. It also could be real for someone that is in a similar situation to you that, hey, I came in, I'm sort of a new person and I'm still trying to earn my trust or earn trust of the team and all of that. So here you are, March, April, May, June, July, August, what, 5.5 months, something like that you've been there.
Yes.
And you still have a big smile on your face. So things must be working well.
It's going great. It's really a fantastic fit and I'm loving this team. I'm really enjoying what I'm doing.
So you made some human capital changes recently amongst the team there. So would you want to describe some of them?
Sure. In really evaluating the business, as I said a little bit earlier, human capital is so important right now. And every aspect of it, from the hiring to the recruiting, to the hiring, to the retention, to the onboarding, to the orientation, the engagement within the first year to build loyalty to the brand, all of those things within human capital are so important right now. When everybody's fighting, we've all got the same labor pool we're pulling from, and everybody is trying to staff their locations. It's really, really important to pay attention to the human capital function of your business and see how you can improve. So we as a company have been identifying the need to really focus on our interns and apprentices, for example. They are the future of our company, they're our future growth. And we are recruiting them. We have a fantastic recruiter that goes out to the schools, does guest artists. She does a fantastic job, talks about our core values, really lets them know who we are as a company. And then they come in and get interviewed, get hired, and their orientation process, it's hit or miss. It depends. Is the manager of that location working the day they started? If not, they might not have gotten that full orientation. It might be, it becomes very murky at that point. From, we're great through the recruiting process. We have opportunity from there on out. So in looking at all of that, it was really just came down to a no-brainer of we need to put someone in charge of people, in charge of human capital. And one of the examples that I have is we, from June of last year to July of this year, hired 38 interns.
Wait a minute. Wait, June of 2021 to July of 22.
Correct.
You hired how many?
38 interns.
Wow. Okay. Sorry. Keep going. Yep.
So out of those 38 interns remaining, we have 16 that are still with the company, and hires that left after 90 days was only 6. We lost the rest of them within the first 90 days.
Wait a minute, hold on here, because we didn't cover this, and which is great. Not that we cover everything. This is a live, unscripted conversation, but let me get this right. So the vast majority of the people that left within 90 days.
32.
32 of the 38. So 90 days, I think there's a magic number there, I guess we would all say here.
Yep, definitely.
Gotcha. Okay. And that's really interesting. All right. So you put someone in charge of human capital. What does that mean? And who is it? What do they do? And all of that.
So it is actually one of our general brand managers. She's been heavily in operations and also over education. So has been wearing a dual hat to this point. And there's really no one better to be a brand ambassador for us than she is. She's a phenomenal coach. She's great with people, has phenomenal people skills, knows every stylist in the company. We have about 100, knows where they are in their development because she's over education, follows their journey from coming in as an intern. So the pieces were already there. It was a matter of just really clarifying things and seeing that opportunity to, hey, we've got this fantastic person over here that's doing some of the things we really need to be happening right now. Why don't we shift her attention to be focused on the people so that we can really be supporting the area of our business that needs the most attention right now.
Well, I do know who you're talking about, and she's very talented, and I'm sure that she's excellent in any role, and it seems like a really great fit. So you have someone that their sole attention's just on human capital. So this is
Yes.
recruiting, retaining, engagement, all of those things, right?
Human capital and engagement. So, or education. So it is really looking at our culture as a whole, identifying opportunities for our culture, identifying opportunities for engagement. They say the first year with a new hire is so critically important because that's when you build the loyalty to the company. That's when you start looking at your employee retention and being able to project out and being able to retain these people. So we now are going to have someone in charge of identifying those opportunities, making sure we're putting 30-day check-ins with our interns, because we're now identifying we've got this magic number within 90 days, we're losing them. So implementing a 30, 60, and 90-day check-in with each intern and apprentice just to see how is the experience going? Do they feel, are they feeling like they are in charge of their journey? Are they feeling lost? Are they feeling supported? And identifying where we can do better.
Yeah, wow. This is, I'm going to do a little math here in a moment, but I expected that you were going to go to part of their role was to have those frequent check-ins during that vulnerable period.
Yes.
Chances are there's not enough, the chances are there maybe wasn't enough face time with the new group. Is that correct?
Yes. And, really what it comes down to is looking at the opportunity for development within our management team. We put so much responsibility on the managers, and they need our support just as much as the service providers do. And the support that we realized they needed was with the people, because they are dealing with call outs, right? And they're dealing with unhappy stylists, and they're dealing with, all of the issues that we see day to day in the salons. They're dealing with all of that. And then you put on top of that, hey, make sure that we give a fantastic orientation to this new hire that just came. Well, if that new hire walks in the door and you don't have any towels and somebody needs to fold the laundry or do the dishes, guess what that new hire is going to be doing?
Losing 32 people, doing a little math on that, let's say that each produces $100,000, over time, it's $3.2 million. And so each one of those interns that you keep that stay, look that out over 1, 2, 3, 4 years, that's an enormous human revenue center.
Yes.
So if someone is listening and saying, oh, that sounds great, putting somebody in charge of human capital, but we don't have the budget for someone in that position. We can't take someone away from being a location manager. So yeah, any comments about that?
I think that this is the area that you have to find a way. There are areas of our business that if we, don't have the budget for it, or don't have a person, or whatever the challenge is, you have to find a way. So some of those things are somebody to unlock the doors every day. Somebody doesn't show up. Guess what you're doing to open the salon? Somebody's running there with a key, correct? Whether you have the person or not, somebody's figuring it out. I think the human capital segment of our businesses is that important. It's one of those, you've just got to figure it out and find a way and pick one thing. If your opportunity is similar to ours with your interns, pick the first 90 days or the first 30 days or whatever feels manageable to you. Pick that portion and focus on it, because doing something is going to be far better than just saying, oh, I can't do it. I don't have the budget for it, or I don't have the bandwidth for it. You've got to find a way.
You'll be at the 2 to 10 conference, right?
I will. Yes.
Can't believe that that's coming up in like 2 months now. And will this be your first 2 to 10?
No, I went a few years ago.
You went
Chicago.
All right, so let's. I got a final topic for you, and that has to do with compensation, restaurant compensation. And I was doing a little probing on that yesterday, and I found it interesting. So. And what you did is you educated me a little bit on types of restaurants. And you talk about the quick service restaurant, which is like McDonald's. Mm-hmm. There is a fast casual. I love that term, by the way, fast casual, which is like Panera, right? Mm-hmm. Then you got a full service, which might be like an Outback Steakhouse.
Mhm.
And then you've got fine dining, which might be like a Ruth's Chris or something like that, right? Okay. And so a part of compensation really depends on that, but all of these businesses, have common positions, and, all of us are pretty familiar with it, positions, but so let's break it down. So you've got line cooks. What's a line cook?
So those are the people back there making the food, right? So the line cooks are the ones that make everything happen in the kitchen.
Now, they're not a chef. What's the difference between a line cook and a chef?
So most restaurants do not have a chef. So if you're looking at, fast casual brands, for example, Panera at the corporate level has an executive chef, of course, that's working out their recipes and doing all of that. But there's not a chef in every single Panera. What you're going to find is line cooks, and they're the ones that are taking the recipe cards from the chef and either prepping them, preparing them, whatever stage they're responsible for in the restaurant.
And then you've got servers, host or hostess, dishwashers, prep table. What other types of positions do you have there?
That pretty much covers it.
Okay.
That's the bulk of it.
So let's look at compensation. Okay. Now, in the interest of full disclosure, I was a restaurant owner for about 50 some years by proxy through Shorty's hot dog stand. And I'll tell you, our compensation at Shorty's hot dog stand was basically nothing, because we did it as a family hobby. But I would have liked to have made an hourly wage there, but it was all about fun. Okay. Anyway, I digress. So line cooks, what you said, is between $16 to $17 an hour. Is that correct?
That is for your really great top-notch ones. If you are just entering into that particular brand, I mean, you might be starting out at $12, $13 an hour.
But they're making their money a different way today.
They are. Overtime.
Like lots of overtime.
Lots of overtime.
So, but still, from a compensation standpoint, doing a little, so let's say someone is $16, $17 an hour. Time and a half is maybe 24, 25, whatever per hour, right?
Mhm.
That's still way below what we show earnings, for example, in Pro Beauty from our compensation study. So,
Yes.
And here's the other thing is there's no tips. I mean, line cooks don't get any tips, right?
Nope.
So why would someone be a line cook when they could be in beauty is what I wonder. Maybe I
That's
have
the
a little bit of
$1 million
bias.
question, right?
Yeah. Apologize for my overt advocacy for the beauty industry, but and then looking at restaurant managers, what they do is unlike in the beauty industry, whereas if you don't have a service provider, you don't have the service.
Mhm.
Because you need to be licensed to do it. In the restaurant industry, if you don't have someone there, then the manager needs to do it all.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the challenge.
Well, I don't know. I think the whole looking at the restaurant industry relative to the beauty industry, I'm going to make one other comment about the restaurant industry is they do have some more legislative favor in them, in the sense that restaurants are allowed a tax credit for tips, payroll taxes on tips, where the beauty industry is. Salons aren't, which has been about a 30-year fight, which keep hearing that may change someday. Hopefully it does. But, the restaurant industry is very well represented with lobbyists and all of that, right?
Yes.
So, well, listen, Debbie, I'm so excited that everybody's had a chance to get to know you a little bit today. Do you have any final words? I'm looking at the clock here and I ran away. I just loved our conversation. Any final thoughts?
I did too. No, just as I keep saying, human capital. And we all know it's important, from the icebreaker question earlier at the start of this, I saw the first thing that popped up was staffing. Human capital is really, really important right now.
Mm. All right. Well, here is what is your first of maybe many $1 million light bulbs. So this will be coming your way. Please give a virtual round of applause to Debbie today. Debbie, thank you. Give her a shout out in the chat. Send a little love. If there is a question in the chat, I haven't been able to monitor the chat, but Debbie, if there's a question or two in there, go ahead and answer them.
Okay.
But well done. I love your insights. I love your energy, and it's going to be great to have you at 2 to 10. So,
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
all right, let's see who's joining us today. Oh my gosh, we got a good group today. Will is back. Hi, Will and Trent and Terry and Sharon and Nina and Michael and Melissa and Megan, Maz, Mark, Marie, hello, Linnell and Kevin, Kelly, Karen, Jean, Joe, Jim, Jared, James, Holly, Heather Ann, Dutch, Debbie, Connie, Christine, Cheyenne, Kathy. Hi, Kathy, long time. Austin, Ashley, Andrew, Amanda, Allison, and someone with a 630 area code, as well as a few others that I didn't mention. We love having everybody here. We're going to be on next week. I think we have a named guest next week. If we do, perhaps JP or someone can put in the chat, but I think we got a really good guest next week. All right, let me just see if there's anything else that I have in terms of things to wrap up with you guys today. Thanks again to Debbie. She gets the $1 million light bulb. Financial wellness, just a reminder, we have the Money SBO workshop. It's great for your managers or if you're an owner. It's not too late to sign up for that. The hotel rate, by the way, is very inexpensive. It's a great hotel. 2 to 10 registration is open. Clear call to action for all of you to please be part of the compensation study sooner rather than later. Let's change the story and the narrative about a career in pro beauty that's based upon facts and data. And then also you'll have an opportunity to get this great report, which is going to be much more robust than what we did in phase 1 of the study. So we do need you to be part of this. Use the QR code to take you to the part of the website where you can just fill out a contact form, and that then will trigger getting the agreement to you, giving you simple instructions to get involved. So please do it sooner rather than later. We do need you to make sure that the size of the data pool is relevant enough for all of us to learn from it. And then, of course, we have Money Pro, which is our new financial wellness product that employers are bringing in to help their team with financial literacy, which will also can improve recruitment and retention and be an employer of choice. And then, of course, we have Qnity for students. A shout out to Lightheart Sanders, the CPAs, for their sponsorship of the Lightbulb moments and for their support in many other endeavors. All right, everybody, I'm going to take a minute to read the chat here, but it is now, next week is Myra from PBA. She is so smart. She's on top of what's going on in the beauty industry. She's got some actionable suggestions. I've been dying to get Myra as a guest on here. So she'll be on here with us next week. So, all right, everybody, let's do this. Let's do an official close of the session today. Thanks for joining us. And what I'll do is I'll take a moment just to check out the chat. But all the best. You guys have a great week, and make sure you join the compensation study. Bye now.